everybody. I'm Caryn Hartglass. You are listening to It's All About Food. I have invited Gary Mattei to join me today.
Hi, Caryn. Hi, everybody. It's great to be back. I haven't been here
Gary.
for a while.
Yeah, early January, I think.
Early January, right before we went to Europe.
That's right. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
We are?
Going to Europe. Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's all about food. And when you're at home or when you're traveling, unless you're fasting, you have to eat.
The restraints on our trip were that you are on a salt, oil, sugar-free vegan diet. And so we had to try and adhere to that. We planned a trip to London, Paris, Aix-en-Provence, and then back to London. So some of the things we had to do in that planning, of course, I didn't do any of it, you did it all, was find accommodations that had kitchens. I don't know how you did it, but you found 1, 2, 3 hotels that were not only equipped with kitchens, but they were also really charming and in really cool areas and just interesting places.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I did, my trick. I used hotels.com. That does not mean I reserved through hotels.com, but I used them because you can select things that you're looking for. You could select for having a kitchenette, and that made it a lot easier. And then once I narrowed it down to a few places I was interested in, I went directly to each of those places' websites. And it really depends on what kind of discounts you're looking for, because usually the price directly from the hotel is best, not always. But places like hotels.com, and, you know, if you're loyal to a certain chain like Marriott or Hilton, they'll give you their price. And in return, you get rewards that you could use for free stays later on. So I suppose it all works out. I like playing around and seeing what I can get for the best.
You used hotels.com as kind of a search engine for what it was that you needed, and then you went directly to the hotel.
Hotel websites, yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. I'm not sure hotels.com will appreciate that, but that was
Hey, I have
smart.
actually used hotels.com to reserve rooms as well. I use them sometimes, just not all the time. First, we flew from New York to London, right?
With way too much luggage. Now, here's something that, you know, when you're traveling in winter, a lot of people say, oh, how could you go in winter? It's so cold. You're right, it's cold, and you have to pack a lot of heavy clothing. We did that, but remember, when you're packing heavy clothing, your bags are going to be heavy. And if you're traveling by train, after a while, it gets a little, it's a good workout, let's just say.
It's a good workout. Yeah. So what we like to do, or we've done a couple of times, now 3 times, we fly to London. We get your rail passes so we can train around wherever we want while we're in Europe. And then we get back to London and fly back home. I personally really like train travel. I love traveling in Europe. I find it comfortable and easy. And I like looking out the window.
It's lovely. Everything about it. We did the Eurostar from London to Paris. That was terrific. They feed you. There's a bar car you can walk into and grab a drink. Do whatever you like in a seat, like reading, and it's comfortable and seats are reserved.
The staff, they're always so nice, very accommodating.
Very attentive.
And
really
then,
great way to
so
travel.
we're talking about trains. So we took the Eurostar to and from London to Paris, back to London. But we also took the, however you're going to say it, train grande vitesse, TGV, TGV. Those are the big speed trains in France that are within France. And we took the one that goes from Paris to Marseille, Paris to Aix-en-Provence. And that's pretty nice too.
We traveled comfortably, but on a budget. We traveled JetBlue. When you're traveling JetBlue from JFK to London, it's a longer flight, and so they feed you, and they fed us a vegan meal. So let's start there in this conversation about food.
Yeah, I want to say that I knew that there would be a meal, and I knew that they had vegan options, and I thought I would have to reserve it. And when I went online, there were no vegan options to reserve. There were other things like kosher, halal, different things, but not vegan. And so I chatted with a representative and found out that there were vegan meals and they just had them on the plane and you could choose them when you were on the plane. But I was still, once we got on the plane, the main item, they give you 2 sides and everybody gets the sides and they're vegan, the 2 sides. They were vegetable sides. Do you remember what they were?
I don't. They
Not
were,
memorable, but they were okay.
but it was food, which is unusual
Yeah, real food.
when you're on a flight.
And
It was
I was
real food.
concerned about the main dish because it said it had pesto and they noted that it was vegetarian, not vegan. So my alarm went up and a flight attendant came over, very helpful, went back and got the list of ingredients that were in the food. They have it on the plane. 21st century, some things are getting better.
Flight
And-
attendant was very helpful.
Very helpful. And she showed me it was indeed vegan. And so we ate some sort of pesto dish and the vegetables. Now, I want to say I am doing salt, oil, sugar free, and I loosened up a little bit. I did have some food that had salt and oil in it. I didn't go overboard. I didn't have any vegan tiramisu on this trip, which is something I normally would have done otherwise.
Right.
We were pretty careful, but occasionally when there wasn't an option, I allowed myself if I
Yeah.
was
Well,
hungry.
occasionally when there wasn't an option or we were on a plane hurling through space and you were hungry and you wanted to eat. Now, I did pack a bunch of food to bring on the plane as well.
Yeah. That was part of our heavy bags.
Yes. So we had a lot to eat because we were not sure about the food situation.
Right.
And it turned out that it was great. We had both the food that I packed and then the food that was
We
served to
brought
us.
we brought some fresh fruit and a bag of greens. What did I have? A bag of arugula or something. You didn't have them, but I ate my bag like chips.
You like that peppery arugula. It's great to travel with a bag of peppery arugula if you're traveling with Caryn. So just remember that.
People find eating vegan or vegan healthy difficult and not convenient, maybe not tasty, I don't know. But I find one of those bags of greens, and you can get any flavor you like because there are mixed greens with herbs, power greens, arugula, the ones that are like 2.5 ounces or something. It's just the smaller size bag. But that's a great snack. You
Yeah.
just open the bag and munch on them for as long as you want. If you eat that entire bag, you're going to be full.
Yes. It reminds me of when we were young, my cousin Nancy, who I lived around the corner from, and our backyards were actually joined because my father and her dad were twin brothers. So they had to build right near each other. And then next to my uncle's house, which was, as I mentioned, around the corner from our house, was my grandparents' house. And then behind all of our houses was what was left of a huge cherry orchard. We grew up in the Santa Clara Valley. I had a very, as I've said on this program before, a very Chekhovian upbringing. And I cried when they cut down the cherry trees and when urban sprawl attacked the valley, the Santa Clara Valley. So my cousin Nancy, who loves little animals and big animals, she loves all animals, and she's also a vegan. When she was young, she had a pet rabbit, and she would feed the pet rabbit all kinds of greens. So whenever I'm with Caryn, it reminds me of when I was a kid and my cousin Nancy had a pet rabbit. So traveling with Caryn is like traveling with a rabbit. If you bring bags of greens, the rabbit will be fine.
Gary, you never told me that story.
Yeah. Because it's true, right? I mean, we would
Yeah.
always give the rabbit, my cousin Nancy's pet rabbit, all of these greens because, of course, if you live on a cherry orchard, then there's bound to be also a vegetable garden or entire acres of vegetables, which there were. So all of these greens that would just be growing naturally out in the ranch, we would just, give to the rabbit, and the rabbit was happy, very happy. But I'm sure the rabbit wasn't happy in reality because the rabbit was, not with other rabbits. They were
Oh,
humans.
yeah.
So when I think about that now, I think about, oh, well, having pets can be problematic for the pet. Great for the human, but for the pet, maybe they want to be with their own.
I like thinking about foods that come in their own natural packaging, which is great for travel. Now, obviously, lettuce doesn't come in its own natural packaging, but with technology, those plastic bags are really convenient. But foods like apples and oranges and bananas and papaya is a great one, or avocado if it's not too soft. They come with a skin. There are great foods you can travel with. So we did have some fruits with us, and the thing was we had to make sure we ate them all before we arrived because, as you know, you're not supposed to bring in produce from another country.
And so we did. You can be sure of that when traveling with us, that all of the food we've brought will be gone before we arrive.
No waste.
No waste. So we packed some food and we had some food on the plane. It was really, really cool, really nice. And then we got to London. We arrived at Heathrow.
Can we talk about the hotel we went to? I'm hesitant because I don't want everybody to use this hotel and make the prices go up.
Very reasonably priced hotel in Kensington, London, is called the Ember Lock.
It's part of a chain that's about 10 years old, the Lock chain, L-O-C-K-E, which has come up with what they call apart hotels in different cities, apartment hotels. And I don't know if all the rooms were like this, but our room came with a small kitchen area. It had a nice size half refrigerator, very nice light inside. It had 2 burners, a microwave. It had a number of reasonable utensils and pots and dishes. The real bonus, it was a washer dryer all in one unit. Incredible.
And it also had a dishwasher. So, I mean, and it wasn't like a really large space, but they really...
well designed.
Well designed.
Yeah.
And
I forgot there was a dishwasher, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't use the dishwasher, but it was there.
It was there.
And so we were able to stay on the SOS-free once we were in London because we went grocery shopping every day and we made our food.
There was
cool.
a Whole Foods within walking distance. There were a number of other markets too, but we like going to Whole Foods. It was a great walk. We could get the foods that we like to have. Like we like to drink soy milk, but soy milk that's made with soybeans and water and nothing else, which is not easy to find in the United States.
No, that
But
seemed
they seem
easier
to
to
have
find. Yeah, even in the small little bodegas in London, it seems that we were also able to find, and France, we were also able
Right.
to find
Yeah, they seem to have cleaner food.
in the small markets. Another reason I think we wanted to go to Whole Foods was because we were familiar with it and we knew that there would probably be a organic section. We didn't really have enough time to kind of explore the other markets, but next time I'd really like to because Whole Foods doesn't really need my money.
Yeah, that's true. We want to stay away from them.
But I'd like to keep shopping from the local market.
Okay, we have to add that while we were traveling in London, we went to a lot of theater. And when we were in Whole Foods, we saw an actor that we really like, Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne, he probably lives in Kensington.
And you know, he has to eat, right? He was standing at some shelves, looking at some products.
He does have a couple of kids,
very
right?
handsome. Yeah.
He does have a couple of kids. And yeah, even at Whole Foods, he looked tremendous.
Very dapper.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was cool. We were fans, but we didn't bother.
No, we left him alone.
It was nice to see that he was in fact human and not the Eddie Redmayne bot.
Right. He's human, shopping for healthy foods, or so we assume, at Whole Foods. Now, when we were not eating out, but we did go out a few times in London, we just did really basic stuff. We got salad. We bought a bottle of vinegar, potatoes, either sweet potatoes or white potatoes. We did get some treats.
Did we?
We got a 85% chocolate bar.
Oh, right. We are considering that a treat, aren't we?
Yes.
Right.
And we did get some organic breads. We don't eat very much bread at home, but we did eat a variety of breads when we were in Europe.
Because when we were in London, we had to have toast. I mean, toast, because there was a toaster.
We had a toaster in the room.
Yeah. So,
we had to have toast.
I guess our big treat was toast.
We bought hazelnut butter.
That's what the big
just hazelnuts, organic.
And we spread that with a little, did we use like dates?
Yeah, bananas. And we bought some dates and chopped them up while we were in London and occasionally checking our social media. One of my colleagues online, Char Nolan, had suggested a recipe, and it was like a kind of like a chocolate mousse made from apples and dark chocolate.
Right.
And I'm reading it, I'm going, oh my God, I want to make this, but I don't have all the tools. So it was cooking apples till you get like an applesauce. And I didn't have a blender or a turbo mixer or something, but I cook them and I mash them with a fork. And then I melted the chocolate and mushed it all together and then put it in the refrigerator.
That was really good.
It was really good.
I wasn't sure what you were doing, but I knew it was going to be tasty, and it was.
It was. I may have to share that recipe on this podcast. It was so simple, even without the tools.
So you can do it, is what we're saying. You can travel without going to many restaurants. We just did it. You just have to like to shop and cook while you're also going to phenomenal theater and art galleries and tremendous sights, as you see when you're traveling.
Okay, I have to express my gratitude, Gary, because I know when you travel, you don't want to cook.
No, I don't.
That's
I'm
kind of
really-
like a religious rule for you not to cook
Well, it
while
used
you're
to
on
be,
vacation.
but for many years now, it has it's gone out the window. So
Thank you. I'm grateful.
oh, you're welcome. And
I am
also,
grateful.
you can do it now. Now, I'm sure folks are saying, well, yeah, of course you can do it. But can you do it SOS-free with all of this incredible? Because London has some of the most incredible plant-based restaurants in the world.
Yes.
And we have lists and lists of them that we would love to have gone to, and new ones that we would have loved to have tried. That is difficult when you're traveling because you just really want to go and just say, oh, come on, let's cheat tonight. But we didn't. We did not.
Well, I'm going to say that we did
you
go to
may
some
have
restaurants.
You may have considered what you did cheating, but I didn't consider what I did cheating because I still ate really clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So we went to Mildred's. Mildred's is a vegan chain in London. I highly recommend it if you ever go. I think the original one is in Soho, and then there's one in Covent Garden. I have a friend from college, and she was working for the Foreign Service the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. I don't know. And she recently retired and decided she was going to go back to school. And she's going to the Royal Central Drama Academy, I guess.
Of London, yeah.
In London.
Now she already has master's degrees and she's already gone. But she decided, you know what? I'm an actor and I love it and I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing it. So she's jumped into an MFA program or an MA program. That's this year-long program in London. And, you know, I was just like, that is just remarkable. That's who we went to Mildred's with. And it was really fun. Caryn knows people all over the world.
I try.
So this is just the beginning of, you know, getting together with people on our trip. So the first person that we met was Joanne.
And you had met her once before at a Bucknell reunion a long time ago.
But,
So we're all old friends now. Anyway, we ate at Mildred's.
Mildred's. And it was Mildred's
in St. Pancras, which is a big transportation hub with trains and subways, where the Eurostar actually goes out.
Right, which we had to go back to anyway to get the Eurostar to Paris.
Yeah. Another time when we were going to the theater, we saw 4 shows while we were in London. We were very, very fortunate. One time we were early at the theater and I just quickly looked at my phone at happycow.net. You have to travel with happycow.net. That tells you where all the great restaurants are that are vegan, vegetarian, veg options with commentaries. It's so reliable and so useful. So I noticed there was a place called Fed by Plants, like 2 seconds from where we were. It was kind of a funky, interesting place. It's outdoors under a big tent.
It was cool. They were playing the coolest reggae music. It was right by the National Theater, which is on the South Bank. Walking there from our hotel was fun. And then we crossed a bridge. It was great. And then, as Caryn said, we were early to see the importance of being earnest at the National Theater, which we'll talk about after we talk about this restaurant. So we walked and we found this really cool place that played awesome reggae music and served all plant-based food, and we sat down and we had some smoothies.
We had smoothies. Yeah, we weren't really hungry because we made sure that we ate before.
And these smoothies were just fruit. I mean, they were like, we would make it home. So it was
Right.
really
There
great.
was no cheating. And they had other great food. It's a vegan place made from Whole Foods. They made waffles. And I was really wanted to come back and try some of their waffles because I think they were buckwheat based, some of them.
Yeah, like they do a fried chicken, obviously not real chicken, but fried chicken and waffles, vegan style, and all kinds of good. Fed by plants. If you're in London and you're at the National Theatre, or even if you're not at the National Theatre, check them out. And then we went and saw a tremendously funny version of The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, which is now in theaters and movie theaters because National Theatre videotapes a lot of their productions and then brings them to theaters all around the world. And so if you like Oscar Wilde, if you like theater and you like National Theatre, this is definitely one that I highly recommend. Go see it.
When we had finished our entire trip and we came back to London, I really didn't want to buy a lot of food because we were only going to be there, I don't know, one night or two. It was a quick stay. And there were a number of places very near where we were staying in Kensington. One was a Thai restaurant that we tried to go to, but every time we were ready, they were closing. So we missed that one. But there was a place called Veggie Jimmy's, and I think it's vegetarian. Like almost everything is vegan. Everything is fresh. It's Mediterranean, Lebanese kind of based food. Very, very fresh. It's funny because we were looking for it, and the on the awning outside it says Jimmy's Grill. It doesn't say Veggie Jimmy. Maybe that turns people off.
Right. It was great.
It was great. Big, big salads.
Gigantic salads.
Yeah, really
and a
good.
lot of other really good little things in the salad. But that's when we came back from
Yes, that's when we were all done.
to Paris and France.
We saw that art exposition with
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. That was fun.
We went to the Design Museum and saw the Tim Burton exhibition that was here in New York that we missed. So it was really cool that we were able to see it because we wanted to see it when it was in New York. And so if you're a fan of Tim Burton or just a fan of the type of work that he does with respect to his art, it's in London at the Design Museum. And also there at the Design Museum is the Barbie exhibit, which we didn't go to.
We skipped the Barbie exhibit.
We skipped the Barbie exhibit. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's wonderful. Let's talk about the other shows we saw, just because folks might be interested.
Sure.
So our first show was the Oscar Wilde play, The Importance of Being Earnest. It's been reimagined for a contemporary audience. Really fun. And bring cucumber sandwiches and tea because they talk a lot about cucumber sandwiches and tea and little cakes and things. And that's what I kept craving when I was watching it. We should have brought cucumber sandwiches. It made me want to go to tea after. And I know that in London, there are tremendous restaurants that are plant-based that serve these incredible teas. And teas in London, as many of you probably already know, are extravagant. I mean, there's sandwiches and cakes and tarts and all of this wonderful stuff. And there used to be this really amazing restaurant in London that closed, unfortunately, called Pharmacy. Cleverly spelled Farmacy. And we were there when we were in London the last time, and I watched them serve tea to a table near us, and I said, I can't wait to go back and get tea here because, I mean, look at those cakes and sandwiches and cucumber sandwiches, and now they're closed. But I'm sure there's a lot of other places.
They're promising to come back. We'll see.
Let's hope, because I want to try their tea. But I'm sure there are other vegan plant-based restaurants that do tremendous teas as well. So anyway, if you go see The Importance of Being Earnest in the movie theater, sneak in some cucumber sandwiches and a thermos of tea. You won't regret it. And brush up on your RP, your received pronunciation. And to do that, you could just watch every episode of The Crown and you'll be fine. Okay, then the next play we saw in the West End was The Tempest, which is a reimagining of Shakespeare's The Tempest, starring Sigourney Weaver and a whole mess of wonderful British actors. And it was tremendous. It was really lovely and very, very cool. And that was our second show. The director of that production, Jamie Lloyd, has a production running on Broadway now called Sunset Boulevard, which is an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, and he has reimagined that, and we just saw that in New York the other night. So Jamie Lloyd is one of these directors that takes these properties and then infuses all of this newness to them, but keeps them contemporary yet honors the piece and elevates it to another level. And it was really extraordinary. So
He also kind of strips them down too with minimal sets and props, right?
Right. Minimal sets, minimal props. It's kind of like you're watching something for the very first time, and yet you're watching something that's familiar. So we've seen a lot of his work, and The Tempest was the second production we saw on the West End with Sigourney Weaver, and it was terrific. And Caryn has done The Tempest.
Yeah, so it was fun for me to see somebody else do my part.
Right. And then the third play we saw was The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which you've probably seen the movie with Brad Pitt, or you've read the F. Scott Fitzgerald short story, or maybe you've done both. This again was another reimagining. It takes place in a Cornish fishing village right around the time of World War I and then goes into World War II. It's about the person who's born old and ages in reverse. It was done by a cast of actors who also were musicians, so they were the band. And we had a pretty good time. I really enjoyed it.
It was very, very energetic, very, very upbeat, even though it's kind of a depressing story. And
yeah.
and they did a nice job with the lead character. They really didn't do much to make him get younger or to start old and younger, just in terms of his attitude and the way he wore his clothes. And obviously they couldn't make him a baby, so they kind of narrated the ending part when he was getting smaller or younger.
It's great. It's really theatrical, and that's what you want when you're in the
And there
theater.
were a lot of scenes that took place in a pub.
Yeah, the whole thing kind of felt like it was in the pub.
Right, which is food related. I just have to connect the dots here with food.
And then the final show we saw was another show that's out in movie theaters now because they recorded it, and that is Dr. Strangelove, with Steve Coogan doing 4 of the roles that Peter Sellers did 3 of. Coogan actually adds the Slim Pickens role. Anyway, if you're a fan of the Stanley Kubrick film Dr. Strangelove, there's now this stage adaptation of it, which was really fun, and we had a great time, and also very depressing because it's happening now. And if you know the storyline, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I want to just take a moment here. You know, it's important to talk about art. The arts are very important, especially in challenging times, because we're able to express ourselves and bring a message to people that may not normally be paying attention or get what's going on. But Dr. Strangelove was brilliant and brilliantly done. And basically, you see a lot of talking heads, a lot of government officials who don't know what's going on and make decisions that are stupid.
That affect all of our lives.
We're seeing that now.
And we saw it then when the film came out in the 60s, and it's just gotten worse. But it's done in a lighthearted, kind of entertaining, satirical way that you still can have a conversation about it and maybe make some changes. But food goes with all entertainment.
There was food in Dr. Strangelove too.
Yeah. What's really interesting about theaters in London, I think we've said this before, is that they sell ice cream, and the ice cream is plant-based. At intermission, there's these little cups of ice cream being sold, and it's plant-based. Of course, we didn't have any this trip. I think the next trip we'll be able to. 2 of these plays are going to be in movie theaters. Check your local listings to see if they're at a movie theater near you. Dr. Strangelove and The Importance of Being Earnest. So then we got on the Eurostar and we went to Paris. And
they fed us on the Eurostar.
Yes, they did.
And the food was good.
It was.
It was vegan.
They were very, very kind. Well, one of the reasons we went to Paris was to see my cousin, who is working for Euro Disney, or it's not called Euro Disney anymore. It's called Disneyland Paris.
Right.
And I was really not sure we would make it because, I mean, we didn't have that much time in Paris. We had were there 2 nights?
Yeah, 2 nights.
But again, traveling with Caryn, we got it in. And I don't know how that happened, but we did it. So we got into Paris. We had stayed at this little hotel before, and they had renovated it, and we were really excited to stay in it again. And it was such a womp,
It was a
womp,
big disappointment. You
womp.
know, I think they were independent before, and I think they became part of a chain.
Yeah, wow. It was just one disaster after another that was very comical now looking
Okay,
back
I
on it
just want
because,
to just quickly review all the things that went wrong really fast. So we
yeah,
got there and it said we had a courtyard room. Now, I didn't know what that meant, but it meant we left the back of the hotel and we were outside in the cold and had to climb up these wooden stairs to our room. And then the rooms you had to open with a code. And I didn't realize that. They had emailed me a code. So the person who was at the front desk had to go back, get the code, and then we couldn't punch it into the keypad. It wasn't really working. So then he had to go back down and he got an actual key and we used that. And then we got into the room and it was freezing. It was cold. Now, you may remember that week in New York when it was really cold in January. Well, it was cold in Paris. Not as cold as New York, but it was low 30s and it was
yeah, it
cold.
was
So
20s.
we're trying to figure out how to turn the heat on and move around. And then we're talking to the front desk and they had some kind of app that you could chat with someone who wasn't at the front desk and tell them what was going on. I think they were in Nice. And then ultimately they gave us an electric heater and an extra blanket. Okay. So we go out and we're walking around the neighborhood. Great neighborhood. We find this organic store we buy. Now this is France. Okay, you have to eat bread in France. We bought some French whole grain bread and some fruits and soy milk and things to have to eat in the room because it had a kitchen in it. Not as nice as the Lock Hotel in London, but a little kitchen. And then we got back to the room. It's warmer now. And we're settling in to watch a movie and the remote doesn't work. So we had to get new batteries for the remote. And then, okay, now we're relaxed. And were we in our pajamas by then? It was late.
It was like 3 in the morning.
And then the fire alarm
The
goes
fire
off.
alarm goes off and we're all back out in the
So we had to
little
go
tiny
outside.
front office area, and this guy who's there is telling us, no, 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 in French. This is all in French. No, 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 no. It's just somebody was taking a shower and they didn't open the window like I told them to, and so the fire alarm went off because of the steam in the shower. So go back to your rooms. You're fine. You're fine. And we're just all looking at him like, are you sure? I mean, and yes, go back, go back. Now, didn't we go to that restaurant we went to?
Oh, yes. When we first landed and we checked into the room,
We went to that restaurant.
we went out to that restaurant. So in
The first time
2022,
yeah, the first time we were in Paris together, or not the first time, the second time, we found this wonderful little restaurant. Go ahead, you tell them, Caryn.
yeah. And it's near the Eiffel Tower. So we figured we would go to this restaurant. It's on the Rue du Théâtre, which I thought was appropriate, the theater street. And it's like a Lebanese, Middle Eastern kind of restaurant. It's vegetarian. And it's called Restaurant Veggie,
Really fun.
Vege. And we
Really
went
fun.
there and got big salads. They have great salads, fresh, with like mint and pomegranate, and there were just some great fresh ingredients in them.
Right. And the last time we were there, we had like hummus and
wine,
falafel.
and yeah, we didn't do that.
Falafel and hummus and this great flatbread that they serve with everything. And so, but this time we just had salad, and it was terrific because we were starving.
And then we walked over to the Eiffel Tower. It was freezing.
And it was like
dark.
the Eiffel Tower was closed.
Yeah.
It was so weird. It was so cold. And there was all of this cyclone fence around the park. And it was like closed for business. I couldn't believe it. I was like so excited to see all of the vendors out there again. And there was nobody there. And it was
Well, it was
freezing.
around 10:30 at night and it was cold and they were doing some repairs.
Right. Right. But I was in shock. So it was kind of it was kind of a
there were some disappointments that day.
It was kind of a film noir kind of moment where we were just like the only people near the Eiffel Tower. Very romantic, but it was cold and foggy. And I have a picture of us, freezing with the Eiffel Tower in the background, and it looks like we're frozen in time, which we are, but all of the fog and everything. So it was a foggy walk to the Eiffel Tower, And then we went back to the hotel, and that's when the fun started with the remote control. And then finally, as we got to sleep at 3 a.m., the fire alarm went off, and that was our first night in Paris. But
Yeah. But hey,
we were in Paris, right?
Paris, darling.
So how bad could it be?
The next day, we were walking around. We like to walk and tour. We went by the Notre Dame, which has recently been repaired in such a beautiful way, using all the same types of oak wood that were used to rebuild the roof, and all the craft and skill that went into it.
It was gorgeous. And then right across the street is Shakespeare and Company, my favorite bookstore in the whole world. And so we were able to go there. And then we walked around the corner to a tea place that we had gone to before. And this is where I really just started to relax, because this little tea place, it just really put me in the mood. And it finally made me kind of just chill.
Well, what I liked about it was this time they had plant milk. And they didn't have that in 2022 when we went there.
And that can ruin Caryn's time. Me, it doesn't ruin my time. Okay. I don't really care. I just like the atmosphere. I like to chill. I don't want to eat anything with animals in it or drink anything with animals in it. I just want to be out. That's the cool thing about the balance between Caryn and I, is this would really ruin Caryn's life.
No.
In the moment.
I'm just saying I'm
you
grateful.
go into a restaurant or a hotel and it doesn't have plant milk. But this time it did. And so that's what even made it all the better. Oh my goodness. This little place is so cozy. On this particular time we went, it was packed. The last time we had gone, it was empty, and it wasn't as exciting. But this time it was packed with people, and we were all freezing, coming in from out of the cold. And then we were all now this community all sitting together, getting warm and drinking tea. And of course, at the tables, I'm always envious of what everybody else is doing at the neighboring tables. And I'm looking around, and there were these great apple pies that they served there that looked like individual apple pies. That looked awesome and made me want to have an apple pie. And then other tables, someone was actually having something savory. Another table, somebody was having, of course, little cakes with their tea. But it was just this cool little tea place. And
it's called the Tea Caddy.
The Tea Caddy. Go there after
Yes.
visiting Shakespeare and Company and Notre Dame. Notre Dame and Shakespeare and Company is in the Latin Quarter, and that's the 5th and 6th arrondissement. So the Latin Quarter is where all the students, I think that's where the Sorbonne is, and all the students are hanging out in the Latin Quarter, and it's still really vibrant and wonderful. And when we got there, we had walked there, and so we had walked from our hotel, which was in like the 16th arrondissement. We walked all the way to the 5th and 6th. And that really gets you in the mood, because you're walking through some really cool spots of Paris, and we had a great walk. But the night before, you would have thought we were in this crazy French farce, because we kind of were. But the next day, we really had fun walking. And then talk about packing it in, and we're not even scratching the surface of how much we did. And then go ahead, take it away, Caryn.
Okay, then we found a restaurant near the Notre Dame called Le Grenier de Notre Dame, which is like the bread addict of Notre Dame. And it's a vegetarian restaurant, and it was fabulous.
It was.
It was fabulous.
It was great.
I got some kind of skewered thing.
It was great. And it kind of all stayed within what, your SOS-free. There may have been a little salt.
Yeah, we had we got juices to begin with, and I had some kind of green juice, and you had some kind of carrot juice. And we did get an appetizer that came with some fabulous bread, and it was like a pate.
A garbanzo bean pate. It was really, really.
But you know what? I found, especially in France, that when we ate in restaurants, the food was not overly salty.
No, not at all. And this pate
and that's
did
not
not
true
have...
in the United States.
This pate that we had for the appetizer didn't have any salt. It was just beans. It was
It
really
had a
good.
little salt, but it wasn't like
I
when
couldn't.
I eat in restaurants here in the United States, I'm like tasting salt. It wasn't the same in Europe.
No, no. Anyway, we did well and we're still alive. So that's cool, right?
Yeah, so the Le Grenier de Notre Dame was a lovely place to visit. And then the next day we went to Disneyland Paris, and it was so
Yes.
cold.
So we got on the train. We actually said, okay, let's do this. We're going to go see my cousin. She's just starting out at Disneyland Paris. She's a dancer in the parades. And so this is great. Let's go see my cousin. We got up. We took the train to Disneyland Paris, which is, yeah, it's about, what, an hour away from
Yeah,
Paris?
maybe. Yeah.
So it's not in Paris at all. It's in the suburbs of Paris or the neighboring Paris. And we went to Disneyland Paris and it was really cold. I mean, just freezing cold. And so we went on some rides. They were really fast and cold. And we thought, okay, let's mellow out. We couldn't see my cousin because they were working in some restaurant. You know, they give the performers these other duties, and some of them are you have to go and dress as a princess and sign autographs and stuff in some of the restaurants. So we waited for my cousin to get off of work. So in the meantime, we had to find a place to have lunch. And we went to one of the little cafes and we got a bean burrito. And that was I think as unclean as we ate the entire trip, right?
But
Because
it was pretty clean.
it was just beans and some sort of vegan cheese. It was
Yeah.
like those burritos used to get at Taco Bell. Remember
No,
those?
it was much better than those.
No,
at
but I mean, it
Taco
was
Bell.
just beans and cheese. That
Right.
was it.
It had some vegetables in it, I think.
Did it? Maybe.
Yeah, it
Onion.
did.
And then we saw the parade. And then after my cousin got off of work, she met us in the park and we went to Disney
Village.
Village, and we went to a restaurant.
Brasserie Rosalie. Rosalie.
And they had a bunch of vegan food on the menu, and it was cool. And we all ate and took pictures and hugged and got back on. What did you get there?
I got I think maybe we both did. I don't know. I got the it was like a butternut squash,
Oh, yeah.
velouté with
Right,
some kind of walnut stuff on top. It was a soup.
Yeah, it was a butternut squash soup.
And then
Very
I
nice.
got this casserole that was served in this cast iron thing, and it had, lots of nice vegetables, and it came with a rice pilaf, and I thought it was very tasty, and
yeah, it was good.
I was cheating. I just wanted to say that when we were in our room, one night Gary got very creative and made us a nice little sliced oranges.
It was a late night snack.
He beautifully presented sliced oranges with pecans and dates and bananas. And it was a nice dessert.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. Looked like a pinwheel. Do you remember making that, Gary?
Yeah, I do. It was fun. But I am, as you've mentioned, me. And so therefore I am clever.
Okay, so the next thing is we go to the
Just kidding.
station to take the TGV, the train grande vitesse, the fast train to Aix-en-Provence. And when we were in the terminal, it was pretty routine. Oh, it got a little dicey because we had to take a little subway to the train, and it wasn't obvious where the TGV was going to be. Remember, it got a little
It was
crazy
only
there.
dicey for me. It was never dicey for you. You don't care if you get lost.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's neurotic about, oh my God, are we on the wrong? What are we doing? Are we going to end up in, but poor Caryn.
Anyway,
You
we
all
took
need
the
to-
train, we got to Aix-en-Provence, and we checked into our hotel there, which was, I think, the best. Well, I don't know. Which one did you like better, the London hotel or the Aix hotel? They were both so lovely and so different.
Clearly both different. Both liked them equally. I even liked the little place in Paris now that I think back on it, because it had so many wonderful stories that, of things that can go wrong, but nobody died. So it's funny now to look back on it. But this place in Aix-en-Provence was very cliche as far as the locals are concerned. Like, oh yes, you foreigners would really enjoy this place because it has all the charm that you want from a little hotel in France.
Yeah,
I
so the
mean,
building, it's inside the old city of Aix-en-Provence, which is a very old city, centuries old. And we were in the Hotel Cardinal, and we got a room that had a kitchen. So I'm not sure why this is, but we weren't in the main building. We had to walk down the cobbled street a little bit to where we were. And it was just
yeah, it
such a
was just
charming building. And we
my
had this
favorite
little
place.
apartment.
Yeah, it was like an apartment, and well, it was an apartment. It was probably an apartment before it became a hotel.
It had
But
a real big walk-in closet
it was true. It was just
and a
terrific.
separate room for the kitchen. It
Now,
was so
now
romantic.
it
And
was
a
old.
courtyard.
It was old, and the courtyard overlooked an art gallery and an old church. It was just once you get there, you're just like, oh, we can relax now? Okay, let's relax. And so we did. And I don't think we ever, I don't think, and I complain for a living. I don't think I complained once about anything that happened in this hotel. It, like I said, it was old. So if you're looking for modern accommodations, you're not going to find it here. But as the locals have said, you foreigners will love a place like this because it's everything you think living in France is all about. And they're right. I mean, I really just
It
love it.
oozed charm.
Yeah, and
Oozed.
there was this little view of this yard in the backyard. It was terrific. Our calendar is packed with events. And again, they all have to do with meeting friends of Caryn. So take it away, Caryn. What did we do?
Okay. So the thing that I was really, 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 really looking forward to was meeting Céline Frey. She is my co-host on our French podcast called Parlons peu, parlons bien, parlons vegan. That means speak a little, speak a lot, speak about vegan. And I had only met her a long, long time ago, decades ago, when she was like 9 or 10 years old. And I have not seen her since, except via Zoom when we record our podcast. And we got to meet her and her husband. Her 3-year-old son, unfortunately, was in school, so we didn't see him. But she just had a little baby girl, and we got to see the baby. And we met at a little place called Maison Nash, which is like Nosh House. And it was a pretty healthy kind of place, vegan options. And
Yeah, it
we
was
had a
fun.
nice lunch there.
And everything's happening in French, and I don't speak French. So it was really an interesting place to be for me because I didn't know what was going on. Yet somehow, because of the gesticulation and actions and things, I was sort of able to figure it out.
Well, I was trying to translate for you.
No, I know, but I mean, but a lot of the time you're just really, you guys are
Yes,
involved in
I was so happy to see Céline. Yeah, so we got some nice drinks and bowls, and the food was very nice. And we talked about the food in the French podcast, which you can go to YouTube and get closed caption English translations if you want to, or follow in French. We had a few days on our own.
Right.
Where
And
we
then-
were just walking around and seeing the sights. I went to get my hair blown because I didn't have a blow dryer that worked with Europe plugs. So I had to go to a salon.
You had to.
And we found a number of salons in London and in Aix-en-Provence that were vegan. They had vegan products. They used Aveda products in Aix-en-Provence, and there were 2 of them, and I went to the one that had availability. So I was very happy about that. But then we met Celine's parents for lunch, Lucy and Pierre-Luc. I used to work with Lucy when I worked in Aix-en-Provence back in the 90s. And they invited us to a place called La Plume Végétale, which makes no sense to me. It's called the vegetable feather.
Mm-hmm.
And the food was okay.
Right.
It was just okay. You got a burger that was like
Well, I had a,
minuscule,
yeah,
right?
I always have burgers. I had a burger the night we went to the place in Paris too, when you had your,
Oh, right, at the Grenier de Notre Dame. Yeah, you did
yeah,
have a burger.
yeah. So I always get a burger. And
But
this burger wasn't really a burger, but anyway, it was fun to be out with folks, and the food was meh.
yeah, that was kind of disappointing. But the company was great. And
Right.
then later that night, I met my friend Valerie and her daughter Marilyn. Marilyn, who has graduated from the Sorbonne, and they both speak English. Marilyn speaks
They're
English
terrific,
really well.
terrific,
She's
terrific.
taught in the United States. And we went to a chain restaurant called Côté Sushi,
Right. We went and
and
had some sushi.
it was a Japanese restaurant, and they had some really nice vegan options. You could get a big platter of a different kinds of sushi that were
Maki.
vegetable. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It was really, really fun. And Valerie's your really dear friend. It's so wonderful to see the two of you together because it's like
yeah, I
you
adore
finish
her.
each other's sentences, and it's nice. She was your pianist
She was
when
my
you
coach, yep, and my accompanist. We did a lot of concerts together back
and you
then in the
sang and
day.
she played piano, and that relationship comes through in your personal relationship. So she's just a wonderful human. And to meet her daughter, the brilliant, brilliant human that she created, was just amazing. And they both speak impeccable English. And that was really a nice break for me to have to try to figure out what everybody was talking about because they were all very polite in translating. That was really fun. And
Yeah,
again, we just packed in a bunch of stuff in our trip. That
we
was
did make a lot of meals in our
tons of,
kitchen in the
yeah,
Hotel Cardinal. We found this organic food store called Bio C'est Bon, which
yeah, it
means
was
organic,
terrific.
it's good. I was kind of sad because there was another health food store that wasn't there anymore. Another store took its place. It used to be called La Vie Claire, the clear life. And that was in Aix-en-Provence literally for decades, because when I used to live there in the 90s, that store was there. And it was there when we visited a couple of years ago, but it's not there anymore. So that was a little
And the farmers markets there,
sad.
though, make up for
Oh my God,
anything
they were
that
amazing,
we
right?
were not. That just so many wonderful farmers markets. And one of the other tragedies was that when we were there the last time, a vegan bakery extraordinaire was there, and we went every day. And this time going
It's
back,
not there anymore.
not there anymore.
They say it was a couple that was running it. The husband was the baker and the wife managed a number of things, and she was having a baby, and I guess
It's
he
just,
decided he
yeah,
would teach, but it was very sad that it was closed.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then we went back to London when X was over. We hung out in London. We didn't go out. We just stayed in the room for a day
Oh yeah,
and
that's right. We enjoyed the
did
hotel.
did some laundry, hung out in the
Hmm.
hotel, did some grocery shopping, rested, and then flew back to New York. And here we are.
And here we are. And
Yeah,
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Anything you want to wrap it up with?
I love traveling, and I love all those places we went to, and I can't wait to go again.
And I love traveling with you, Caryn.
Oh,
And I know I'm not the greatest traveler because I'm me. But thanks for traveling with me. And it was Valentine's Day a few days ago. So happy Valentine's Day. Love
yes. Happy
you,
Valentine's Day, Gary, and everybody.
everybody. And so I think I'm done
Oh,
here.
wait. I had one more thing to say.
Okay, good.
Uh,
Let's wrap it up with something
right.
on a higher note.
Well, I don't know if it's high, but I wanted to add, we spoke to people in London, in Paris, and in Aix-en-Provence about what's happening in the United States. And everyone was aware of what's going on here. And I can't say that most Americans know what's going on here or what's going on outside of the United States, because we're kind of narcissistic here. But everyone knew about the politics here. It blew me away. There was somebody I spoke to on the train who just started talking about it when he realized, we were American. And we spoke to the guy at the farmer's market, a farmer. about what was going on. And of course, our friends. And it was just, I just was amazed.
Yes, it was amazing. And everyone is concerned.
Everyone's concerned. Yeah.
And in any language, concern comes through. And I didn't need an interpreter. I knew what they were talking about. Just keep going.
So what I want to say is that no matter where we are on the planet, we are all one people, humans. We all breathe the same air. We all drink the same water. We want clean air. We want clean water. We want nourishing food. We want the best for our friends and our family. And I want to focus more on that, not on what's different about us, but what's the same.
That's
and
it.
what brings us together. And when you travel, I think you learn that. You get to see people that are so different. And yet when you connect with them on a personal level, you see the humanity, the positive side of humanity.
Exactly. Well said, Caryn. And on that note, it was great being on your show today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me and being my partner.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a delicious week.